All right. Well, it was announced that this meeting is being recorded. So
Yeah.
welcome back, everyone, or welcome to, if this is your first time listening, to SANDCAST, Beach Volleyball with Bourne and Travis Mewhirter. We are back on Zoom today because we are doing a podcast all the way to Florida with Coach Jason Lochhead, the Ginger Ninja. How we doing, Coach?
Yeah, pretty good, eh? Pretty good surviving out here.
Yeah, morale's pretty high for everyone today because Jay just got back from Disney Springs with the kiddo. Try's got a big day moving into the new crib. So big day for all involved.
Yep.
Yeah,
for sure. I finally made it. I finally made it to Hermosa Beach. I went Manhattan, Redondo, and I finally made it to where I wanted to be.
Just working around a little circle.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you had to wait for 16th Street to become the training center. So now you just have like a stroll there now.
Exactly. I'm stoked on that. It's actually kind of cold here today. I mean, not cold, maybe like what, 68, 70 this morning. But Lochhead, you got a little.
Yeah, I feel like you're rubbing it in. Yeah.
Well,
how's it feeling out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think we went to Disney, took the kid to Disney Spring on the day off today, and I think it was like 95 and humidity like crazy. So, but it was fun. It was fun to get out and show her around and get her to see all that stuff and kind of amazed by all this Disney stuff. Yeah.
And it is convenient that it is as warm as it is there because you guys are training for Tokyo, where they're not going to put on the AC for you on those courts.
Yeah, exactly. It was actually we were looking at the other day, and it's almost identical humidity and heat, so it's pretty perfect.
That's perfect.
Yeah. And when does everyone show up? I know that all the U.S. teams are going out to Florida and a few international teams. Tell us a little bit about that training camp.
Yeah. So actually, the last week and a half, we've actually had Qatar out here and the two Polish teams, Brill and Fifi and Kantor-Loziak. So it's been awesome training so far with those guys. Like, I mean, just awesome teams. So like Qatar is, you never get a free ball down on those guys. That's ridiculous. Even in training, they're just hustling so hard. I'm like, man, how can you do this in this heat? But no, it's been awesome. And then tomorrow, Jake and Taylor turn up. And so we'll have all 5 teams for the week. And then also the girls come as well. And they're going to be training out here. A bit of like a heat, humidity training camp for USA, which is going to be awesome.
Are there any international women's teams coming in, or is it just the U.S.?
Just the US, but I think they might be bringing like a guys team out for them to train against as well.
Okay.
And then on Thursday night, we're actually going to do like a exhibition match out here at Boxley Park, which will be pretty cool.
Oh, nice.
So we'll play against Jake and Taylor, and the girls will play against each other. So
that'll be fun.
Should be pretty fun, yeah.
Yeah, and you guys had a miniature version of this before this season started, right? You had Nikolai and Lupo out there. They were kind of stuck there for a bit.
That was was that before Qatar this year, or was that was before COVID hit?
Yeah,
before COVID hit, before we went to Qatar, Nikolai and Lupo came out, and then like COVID was kind of happening and just kind of starting up, and they were like, they couldn't go back to Italy and all that stuff. So it was like they kind of stayed a little bit longer out here, and we did like the exhibition match, and then went to Qatar, and then it all COVID hit and fell to pieces on everything. But but we had Qatar out here before Mexico and had a training camp with them, which was awesome. They loved it, so they were like, we want to do it again, which is perfect for us.
I remember talking to Sharif in Sochi, and he was like, training in the U.S. it's amazing. He's like, you have all these teams up there, so. And he just got like a little sampling, and now it's really cool. Like as we were talking before we went on the record, that like this is like Phil's dream. He's been trying to make this like Florida training center, and he has it. Like some of the best teams in the world come into his spot in Boxley Park. It's pretty cool to like see that Phil kind of like, he's big on manifesting things, and he sort of manifested it. He made it happen.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, it kind of worked out perfect. I think it's like pretty cool for the USA to be able to have, they got LA, that kind of weather, those beaches, and then you have like something over here on the East Coast. And I feel like to have a hub out here would be pretty awesome for teams to be able to meet European teams here, which is obviously a bit easier for them to travel.
Yeah.
It could be a stopping spot on the way to Europe. I don't know, heaps of options. It's cheaper.
For Europeans. We don't want the Europeans to have to travel too far. We'll leave our house to come halfway to you guys, so you don't have to come all the way.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, we're jumping around the whole globe and coming over to their place all year long.
Yeah.
Dude, that was the toughest parts being in Bulgaria. We were playing this English team in the first round of the quali, and they were asking just like how long our travel was. I was like, it was like 13 hours. It wasn't terrible. It was a direct flight. And they're like, oh, how about yours? They're like, it was like $33 in an hour and a half. I was like,
that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. I know, man. I remember when I was playing on the tour, like New Zealand being so far away. I mean, we would leave and we'd stay gone for 7 months, just living out of our bag. 7 months, just traveling around.
There's probably no country that has it worse than New Zealand, and that was you.
Yeah, it was pretty tough. It was just too far to go back and then come back out. So you just stayed out there, played little national tours in between. But I mean, it was kind of nice. The World Tour back then, like I remember one year, I think we played 28 World Tour events in the year. Yeah. Jeez. So it kind of worked out well. That was like the most we played in 1 year, but it was pretty good having that many tournaments to play.
Dang.
That's a loaded schedule.
Yeah. And then imagine the USA teams, they were playing a bunch of those and going back to AVPs, and so they must have been up playing like close to 35.
Dang.
A lot of tournaments. Yeah.
As you mentioned, I mean, you represented New Zealand as a player, and I've heard great things about the New Zealand tour. That is basically Adam Roberts is like, that is a must play.
The champ.
That was like that was like your first beach professional experience.
Yeah, it was. I think it was actually.
Will Montgomery.
Yep.
What year was that?
It was 2012, I think.
2012. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because I was playing in Puerto Rico, and then I just took the because it's a short indoor season, so I took the second half of the year and went with Will. Yeah. He pitched it as like half a surf trip, and then we could also play in New Zealand tour. I was like, oh yeah, I'm on it. Perfect. Let's go.
Yeah. Did you get some good surfing out there?
Yeah, we got some good surfing. We went out to Raglan and then surfed Manganui and a few other spots. But man, that was good times out there. It kind of reminded me of Hawaii. Different in a lot of ways, but a similar culture.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah.
I'm wondering what's the beach volleyball culture out there like? Because I mean, we were kind of talking about the Continental Cup earlier, where there's two pretty solid teams in New Zealand, but you look at the Dutchies and they're just like getting so deep, and Brazil's getting so deep. And like, how big is beach volleyball in New Zealand, and how did you kind of get into it? I mean, it's been your living for a pretty long time now.
yeah, pretty long time. I mean, I think in New Zealand, like obviously you have those sports like rugby that dominate, so that's where all the guys go a lot. And then on the women's side, I guess it's like kind of netball. But actually in like high school, indoor volleyball is one of the most played sports in New Zealand. So they do get a lot of kids in there and playing. And then it's just that kind of transition to beach, which is really tough. There's not really, we don't have sports in university and stuff like that. So kind of once you finish high school, it's kind of like up to you what you do, and like, do you join a club or those kind of options. So definitely makes it tough. So I think that jump from high school to like top level beach is really hard. So that's kind of, I guess, the gap that New Zealand's missing at the moment, to give like some depth. But then obviously you get those out of those numbers from high school. You have some that just absolutely love it and want to do it so bad, so they kind of get out there on their own and train and do all that stuff. For me, it was kind of like indoor started with me because my sister and my brother both played, and then they both played a bit of beach. So I was like, I got into it and just fell in love with it.
Yeah.
But I was pretty lucky when I was coming up. New Zealand tour was probably at its best.
Okay.
So every year we would get probably two teams out of the top 5 in the world. Like we had the Lasker brothers out there, we had Brink out there, you know, a bunch of really good teams. And so they would come and play on our national tour. And like as a young kid, 15, 16, I get to go play against these guys. And it was like kind of get a taste of it, which was like just amazing. And then it kind of just like built from there, like, oh, I'm actually getting close to these guys. Or maybe I took a set off them, like, okay, maybe I could compete out there. Maybe I could do this. Yeah.
It's
So
amazing how, oh, sorry.
No, you go.
Well, I was just going to say, it's amazing how at a young age, when you have little experiences like that, where you get to measure yourself against the top people, it can like set you on this track to like just go all the way, you know, like I feel like I had a few experiences, like I played a lot, but it's when the top players came back and played against me and I was like, oh, I can hang with these guys. Like, this is crazy. It was like just having that experience was like such a big booster in terms of like confidence and going to the next level and the next level. So I think about that nowadays, like that it's important to go back and play in a few tournaments against these young guys. And at least for me, like going back to Outrigger and in Hawaii and getting reps against the young guys, like that's super important to give back. Taylor was mentioning that too last week.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I feel like everyone has that kind of experience at some point where they got that opportunity and maybe they lost, but they were like tied at 16 and they're like, whoa, like I'm tied at 16 with this guy or whatever.
Yeah.
And that like gave them the boost to like keep going with it or something like that.
Well, it's funny. I remember probably my first moment having that. So Craig Susu, who coached us on the World Tour for a little bit, he was an awesome player on the World Tour. And
I met him,
when he was at his height on the World Tour, and he came back and played on the New Zealand Tour. I think I was maybe 15 or 14, and it was service point scoring, and we lost. This was 1 set to 15, and we lost 15-3. And I was like, I suck. I'm terrible. This is freaking 15-3. I got smoked. And then the next match, he beat the New Zealand number 2 team 15-0, and I was like, ooh. Hey, I got 3 points. I'm maybe right here. Maybe I get it.
It's all about perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
So what, I mean, did you always know that you wanted to be a professional player coming out, or was that just kind of something that you kind of walked into? Because I feel like that's how it goes with beach players sometimes. They're like, oh, well, I'll play this. And then they kind of have this moment where like, oh, I should just play professionally. And I don't know if you were like really wanted to be a professional player, and that was like a big goal of yours, or you were kind of going a couple different directions. You're like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I think I think from like what Troy was saying, those early stages when I kind of realized that I could do it, and I was like, I know I can get better. I know I can, and I was still super young, so I was like, hopefully I'll grow. But I don't know if that happened. And so I think super early on, I remember telling my mum that I wanted to be a professional beach volleyball player and go all the way. But it was actually kind of crazy for me. I actually, after high school, I was, obviously starting to look at getting jobs and getting into the real world. And then I remember working for this electrical company, and they said to me, we want to take you on full time and, get you like fully certified and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, nah, I got to give this a go. I got to do this. So I think like I knew young on that I really wanted to do it, and I was like, I have to give it a true go. And then I got lucky enough when I was like 19. Kirk Pittman was like already the top New Zealand team. He had already gone on the World Tour a couple of years, and he was like, hey, you want to give this a go? Like, let's team up. So, and then I was like, this is my opportunity. Got to make this work, train super hard, and take advantage of it. Yeah.
That's a cool opportunity. Big promotion right out of the gate.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did finish second on the New Zealand tour, so I had proven myself. But yeah, huge opportunity from a guy that's already been on the World Tour a couple of years, and I was super young. I think he was 4 years older than me, so still pretty young as well, especially to American standards. Yeah. Yeah. So I barely turned 20 when I went out on the World Tour my first year. Yeah.
And how was that? Because I mean, for you have this decision, right? You have the stability, full-time job, and then you go out on the world tour where I mean, we're all basically just gambling on our teams, right? There's no problem. I mean, what was that like just getting out there? 20 is, by American standards, like you said, super young to take a leap as a beach volleyball player.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty scary. I mean, I'd kind of like from working, saved up as much money as I could. And when me and Kirk talked about it, we're like, hey, let's just, we have all this money saved up. I think we had like $8,000 each or something, New Zealand, which I think is like, what, $5,000 US. So not that much. And we're like, let's just go out there and see what happens. Trained up super hard. And we went to our first World Tour event was in China. And it was actually kind of funny. We played Angola was our first game because they had a decent amount of points. And I mean, they weren't the strongest team. So we got kind of lucky in that first one. And we were playing terrible. We were losing the first set. And I remember Canada was going to be our next match in the qualifier, which was Van Heusen and Conrad. Conrad had already been played in the Olympics before that. So a really good team. And I guess afterwards they told us about this when we became friends, that they were watching the game and they were like, oh, both these teams are terrible, and they just walked off and left. And we kind of like found our stride and kind of started playing our normal game, and we ended up beating Angola pretty easy. And then we turned up against them, and I guess they kind of went in with that mindset of like, oh, this will be an easy game. And we kind of just came out and just balled it up and took them down, and then made it into the main draw first time. So that was huge. And they kind of like gave us a little bit more money, so it kept us going. And I think we played in maybe like 12 or 13 tournaments that first year, and I think we qualified 4 or 5 times. It was kind of like we made back just about the same amount of money that we put in. So I was like, okay, we broke even first year. That's all right. Let's save up again.
Yeah.
Save up and do this again. Yeah. And just keep kind of building from there.
I feel like that's a win on the world tour when your first year traveling, you break even. You're like, yeah, I'm not 10 grand in credit card debt. That is a win.
Yeah. We actually had, it sucks they got rid of us. There used to be an awesome deal out in New Zealand where you buy a round the world ticket. And so you got to choose, you either go to Africa, Europe, and then America and back home, or you could go vice versa the other way. And then you had 20 flights that you could use inside of all those stops. So you had to go one way around and then choose how many flights you wanted to use. So I think it was the price was not bad too. It was something like $4,000 for the whole thing. Bad. Yeah, and then you could change your flights for free. Like it was awesome. We had that for the first like 3 years traveling, and it was unbelievable. And then they realized it was too good of a deal. They got rid of it.
I was gonna say we got to bring that back.
Yeah,
I think a lot has changed in both, for sure, for airlines. Every year I feel like it gets way harder to get status. Every time you're like, oh, I made it, or like that, I got that sweet thing. They're like, we have it next year. You got to do this to get it. It's like, God damn it,
man. Yeah, that's crazy. And the rules, like, the restrictions and everything. I remember we were in Spain one year. We were traveling with the Canadian girls, and one of them lost their passport and just kind of explained, hey, I lost my passport, but it's getting shipped to our next destination in France. And they're like, okay. And let her on the plane. It's like, there's no way that would happen now. No way.
No
Fly
way.
without a passport? You're crazy.
How would, when you look back, because I've talked to like Phil and Nick and a lot of the older guys about this, like, how do you compare the world tour when you first got on tour to how it is now? Because it's a lot different even since I came on tour in like 2013, right?
Yeah. The world it was pretty awesome because I felt like the prize money wasn't massive at the top, but it was probably better than it is now, but it was also spread out deeper down. So I think like back then you made the main draw getting a 25th. I think you got like $2,000, right? And now you get a 25th. I think you get like 600. something like that, and
Yeah.
a 4-star, 4-star, which was equivalent to an open back then.
Yeah.
So I think that is one of the biggest differences, the hardest things, because like those teams that aren't, making semifinals, fifths, consistently, you're going to take bad ones, and then you take a bad one, you take a huge hit on your bank account now, which is crazy. The other thing was back then, it used to be once you made the main draw, you had the hotel room for the whole week. So like, especially for us, like where we were stuck out there for 7 months, to have that, to make the main draw and have that was like, oh my God, this is massive. It's huge for us. Europeans, they can just fly home. So it was like, that was pretty huge. And then I feel like back then it was a lot more kind of like, I don't know, I guess maybe what it used to be on the AVP. And I remember what it was like on the New Zealand tour, where it was like, everyone was a lot closer, a lot more close knit. And we would like play a tournament, and then we'd all go out and have some drinks together, and then we'd all get ready for the next tournament, where I feel like now it's very you are in your team and you stay in your team, you don't do anything with anyone else. If you party, then you look like you're not doing it right. I think those are probably like the big differences I see.
I agree. What about the depth of the players since you first got on? Like,
I was actually talking to someone about this. Like, my first reaction is saying the depth back then wasn't as good as it is now. But then I was kind of like, but also back then the qualifier was open, so like you'd have sometimes 70, 80 teams in the qualifier. So it'd feel like, the depth wasn't there, because I remember sometimes playing the qualifier, we'd play 4 games in one day to make it. And the first 2 games were pretty easy, you kind of cruise through. And then the last 2 were really tough, where now it's like, it's cut off. So maybe it feels like the depth is stronger, but I think the size has got bigger. Like I remember Jake, when he first came out, I think he was one of the biggest blockers on tour. And now he's probably like mid-size, which is pretty crazy. I think the size has definitely got a lot bigger. Yeah, for sure.
I feel like when I first came out, there was like, you wanted to be a top seed because you felt like you'd get a pretty good draw in the first round, in pool play.
Yeah. Now
I feel like it doesn't matter what your seeding is. Like there's no good pools usually nowadays.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's how you feel too, but I think I remember like really looking at the seeding before, and now I'm just like, I could care less. As long as I'm in the main draw, like my seed isn't really gonna change much.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it is like definitely the main draw is ridiculous now.
Yeah.
It's crazy. The thing I liked back then was the double elimination. Like it was like your seed, you knew who you were gonna like be matching up with, especially for the next round, all the way through the whole tournament. Where I really don't like the whole pool play, pulled out of a hat.
Yeah,
kind of like I really hate that. Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that it was double elim. When did that stop?
Yeah, I think that was maybe around 2008. They kind of went from double elim for all the tournaments, and then they made it only the Grand Slams, which are like 5 stars now, became pool play. And then it was like a year or 2 of that, and then they were like, okay, everything's pool play now.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't Grand Slams and Opens before 09?
It's double elim.
Yeah, was it not called Grand Slams and Opens at that time? Or it was?
Yeah. I was just saying equivalent to the 5-star, 4-star now. Yeah. But yeah, it was all Grand Slams and Opens. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was so spoiled when I first came out. I had no idea how good I had it.
Yeah.
I had Hayden. He had points already, and he was already experienced. And I was playing in like what we had like 8-9 Grand Slams, and then we had the $2 million ones within those 2 years. I was like, I had no idea how good I had it.
Yeah. It was crazy how many Grand Slams they had. It was awesome. I remember even sometimes they had back-to-back Grand Slams, and it was crazy.
And Red Bull, like 3 or 4 of them were major series. So like,
that's when the major series came on a little bit after.
Yeah, just a great event with the VIP lounges and all that were just epic.
Yeah, Klagenfurt started it. That was amazing.
I'm glad I got a few Klagenfurts in.
Yeah, Klagenfurt was the best.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you've seen the game go through quite a few phases, and I mean, you're still pretty young yourself.
Yeah.
When you were like, I think one of the weirder transitions for players to make in any sport is, what do you do after you play? And what was your transition like from playing to coaching? And then what was it, 3 years ago you came out, and when Nick was hurt and you ended up taking what, a fifth in Hermosa?
with Phil. Yeah. It was pretty crazy actually. I remember my mum always saying that I'd be a great coach, but I was always like, nah, I don't want to be a coach. I'm a player. I'm playing.
Yeah.
I'm not even thinking about coaching.
Yeah.
And then me and Kirk, I mean, we almost made the Olympics in 2008, and then super close in 2012, and we had been playing together for like 10 years, and it was kind of like, okay, we actually weren't deciding that we were going to be done playing. We were more like, hey, we just need a break. We need a break from each other, and we were actually going to play with 0 days each.
Okay.
I was going to play with Sam, and he was going to play with Ben. And then they changed the qualifier to that cutoff, so it wasn't open anymore. And we were like, oh man, like we're going to get dropped way down. Like, do we really want to do this? So Kirk was like, nah, I'm done. And then I was like, man, do I want to do this? And I was like, man, I'll take a year off. I'm going to take a year off playing. And and this was pretty crazy, but I was super into golf. And I was not bad, like scratch golfer. And so I was like, I'm going to try and go golf. I'm going to give golf a go.
Oh, I love it.
So I I was living in LA, and I started training full-time golf, started playing in all these tournaments. And I was doing pretty good, like doing okay, like little local tournaments where 20, 30 guys would turn up and chuck money in. You know, I was always finishing like top 5 and won a couple. And then, I went to Nevada Championship, and I was actually tied for second place there in the second round. And then I was 8 under, and I had a terrible hole. I had a 8 on a par 4, which threw me way back. And then I think I shot 1 under on the final round, and I finished 30th. But the crazy thing was, so like I was going all right, but just the cost of doing it all was just so crazy. So like even that tournament cost me $750 to enter it, and I finished 30th and won $750. So I was like, I need to make some money because I'm drying up pretty quick. So I started to do a little bit like private lesson coaching and that kind of stuff. Was bringing in a little bit, and then Hayden Jones, I was actually doing some coaching for him out at his club, and he got a message from the country Vanuatu, and they were like, they need a coach to help them on the world tour. And I was like, well, I need to make some money. I could go out there for a few months and make a little bit of coin, and that's kind of where it started. Like, it was totally not even like planned or that I wanted to become a coach. And so I kind of took them on, and I mean, it had a blast, and they obviously did really good, and they got better and better. And when I was out there, my first year, like halfway through the year, Germany, Misha and Bockerman, they were like, hey, we need a coach for one tournament. Do you think you could help us? So I asked Vanuatu, and they're like, yeah, it's fine. So I helped them, and I think they got a 9th in Gstaad. It was in Gstaad. And that's when Ben Saxton and Chaim Schalk were like, you coaching guys as well? And I was like, well, I mean, if someone wants me, I'm here. And so then they were like, yeah, we want you to coach us in the next tournament. And then that kind of like grew from there. So that's kind of how, and then it kind of obviously went on from that. So it's, pretty crazy. And then I ran out of time for golf, and I kind of fell in love with coaching, and I was earning money. So I was like, okay, I kept saying I'll come back to the golf at some point. And maybe I will. We'll see. Maybe the Champions Tour when you're 50 plus, if I can ever get good enough a game. But I haven't played golf hardly much. So my game's terrible right now.
Did you talk about an unplanned route? Vanuatu, of all places. I don't think would have predicted that one.
No. That was. I remember the first time training with them. They flew me out there, and it was my first time in Vanuatu, and obviously, third world country, and it was pretty crazy. But I mean, the girls were awesome, so much fun, and I even worked with a little bit of the guys out there, and they were super happy, fun people, and had a blast there. And then they just got better and better and better. And I mean, they had some awesome results. They got a 4th in an Open was their best one.
Jeez.
So close to making Olympics. They finished 17th, top 16 make it in.
Oh.
Yeah. And then
that's crazy how well that you helped them do on the World Tour. I think nobody had any expectation, not hearing of Vanuatu. And then all of a sudden they're like, getting top 5s and almost making the Olympics.
Yeah.
Wow.
They probably should have been in the Olympics, but because I don't know if I should tell that story. I'll leave that story out.
I have plenty of those stories too.
Yeah.
In terms of mine are more country quota related. Top 16 is not the problem. No.
Yeah. No, I know, man. That was tough.
No. The reality is everyone has every country has their own path, and challenges, and each team has their own little challenges that they all go through. And it's kind of wild because you don't really hear each team's specific story. You can be complaining about your situation, and then you hear someone else like, oh, that happened to you? Or you had that misfortune, or some people got lucky there. And it's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's a crazy path.
It's wild. And then you have continental cups, which are they all done right now?
No, I think the Asian and Osaka are still going.
Norseka finals are happening today at 1 p.m. our time. So it's Canada versus Mexico. And then, so the European one finished yesterday, but I was telling, me and Jason were talking before that, so every federation treats their Olympic spot different. So Canada, if they win, will have a playoff on Monday between the two teams. And so, but Switzerland, so the guys won, and they just gave it to the team with the most points. So Heidrich and Gerson are going for Switzerland, but the Dutch women won, and they're having a playoff right now between their two teams to see, and winner goes. So one match to decide who's going to the Olympics.
It's so different for every country. It's insane.
And I was talking to Ben Saxton, because Canada won the Continental Cup in 2012, and he was playing with Christian Redmond, and he was playing he had to play Martin Reeder and Josh Binstock for their spot. And he said that he was like, I've played in world championships, I've played for gold medals, I've played in the Olympics. He's like, there is no match with that I felt that kind of pressure as that to decide who's going to the Olympics.
Yeah, that's gnarly. Yeah,
totally.
I think it's pretty tough. Two teams playing for one spot. That's a tough format.
Yeah. And Delaney, because me and Delaney were watching the Switzerland Continental Cup, and she was like, well, what if the twos team just doesn't like the ones team? She's like, they could and if Kradiger and Breer are just like, we don't really like Gerson and Heidrich, so we're just gonna tank and lose. Is there any so there might have to be some kind of incentive.
I know.
Their guys know that they can't get the Olympic spot.
I'll give you half my sponsorship money. Yeah, that's crazy. You gotta make sure you stay friends with them.
I know. But the Continental Cup, though, it was fun to watch because it was so tense. There was just so much on the line, and it was cool that the Hague was sold out. It had full stadium, and it was cool because the Netherlands were in both the guys and the women's finals, so the crowd was going nuts because everyone in the crowd knew what was on the line. And so it was kind of it wasn't all that different from watching the World Championships when the Hague hosted. They were going insane.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, but
and Jay, you were at the last Olympics with Canada, right? With Saxton and Schalk, right?
Yeah.
That's right. I couldn't really remember. How's that experience? Just going as an Olympian.
It was awesome. We had an awesome run. Those guys, I think they won 5 medals in their Olympic qualifying process.
So they qualified pretty high, huh?
Not really, actually. Like, I mean, they were pretty high, but not crazy high.
Okay, yeah.
I think they might have been maybe like 11th around there. Yeah,
I've been trying to pull up the 2016 qualification because I was just curious of like where we were, me and Hayden were versus where me and Trevor were on this list.
Yeah,
I think it was similar. Do you remember that, Travis?
Well, I know that you and Hayden, it's hard to find like the Olympic rankings, but I remember if you go back to just like the final World Tour rankings, you and Johnny are like 3.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
On that last year.
That's like entry tech points. It's basically just a
That's why we got to the World Tour finals after that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a little skewed. I do want to find that list though.
Yeah.
I found the list at one point, but it didn't have us on it. So
oh really?
Yeah, we had been taken out of it. So I was like,
oh yeah.
I really can't figure out what our ranking was last time. I want to say like 14 or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever.
I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, you're probably better at it than me.
I do remember though, in the very last tournament for that 2012, like there was still a chance that teams could pass Ben and Chaim. Like it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember we were watching because they finished 17th in that one, and then we were like watching a couple other matches, and we're like, okay, we need Germany to win this, and then we're good, and then Germany won. We're like, whew. Okay,
that was Hamburg, right?
Yeah, in Hamburg, yeah.
Hamburg, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then Vanuatu were playing in that and still had a chance. They needed to get a 4th, and China to get a bad result, and they actually bet Duda and Agatha, and then they matched up against Larissa the next match to go to 5th.
Oh.
It was just like brutal draw, and they lost that one. But yeah.
Dude, how it's so crazy. Like I kind of forgot what it was like, but this time going all the way back and just experiencing the last like 2 events of Olympic qualification in Sochi and Ostrava this time, it was crazy walking around the venue, like seeing matches, and you're like, oh my god, like these people are playing for their lives right now.
Yeah.
Or that team just lost their whatever, you know. It's pretty wild just to be around during those times, and you're like sitting in the lunchroom and people are watching their you know, a match that like can decide their Olympic bid. They just start celebrating. We were talking about that with Taylor last week on the podcast, where they were eating lunch when you guys
playing.
Yeah. And they were like, you know, celebrating in the lunchroom. And Italy did the same thing while I was Adrian and them while I was over there. And it's a crazy experience. Like FIVB needs to have some cameras behind the scenes during those events next time around.
Yeah. Well, I actually remember that one. So when we were playing the Dutch, and Taylor actually came over and was standing next to me for a little bit. And at that point, before he came over, we were losing, and he came over and started watching. We started coming back and winning. And then he walked away. I was like, dude, no, come back.
Yeah, what do you think?
Come back here.
Do not come back over here. That's fun.
Need this energy.
Yeah. I know, and it's so funny too, like when you're actually like friends with I mean, you're pretty much friendly with everyone on tour, you know. But in those moments, you're just cheering so hard against them, and they're so cheering against you, and it's just it's
weird,
unique situation.
Yeah, and you're like from the same country, which makes it even like harder. Like such a crazy format. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And how does it feel now that you're going with the US? You went with Canada, now you're going with the US.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was actually thinking about this the other day, and I mean, I don't know if this is going to come across bad, but I don't really think about it as like country. I guess I think about it as like these guys. This is who I'm with. This is who we, you know, when I'm trying to do something amazing with this team and help them do something amazing. Yeah, and obviously, you know, I want US to do awesome because I'm part of that group, but that's what I see first is Phil and Nick.
Right.
How did you start working with Phil and Nick? So you kind of had like a roundabout journey to get with Ben and Chaim. You know, Vanuatu, Germany was like, all right, let's take you for a tournament, and Ben and Chaim kind of poached you up. I'm curious how did that journey start with Phil and Nick?
Yeah. So we finished Olympics in 2016, and we were starting 2017, and I think it might have been maybe in like February 2017, and we'd actually done a few trainings with Phil and Nick because we were kind of training mostly in Manhattan at that stage, and I was doing actually. I remember I was out in San Francisco doing like a camp out there, and Nick calls me up. And I thought he wanted to talk about setting up a training time or something. And then he was just like, hey, like, we're kind of thinking about getting a new coach, and we think, you'd be awesome. And, like, what do you think about this? And I was like, oh my God, this is insane. Like, I was like, I need some time to think about this. Pretty much didn't sleep for those next couple of nights. I mean, it was a really hard decision. Like, obviously you got Phil and Nick. Phil, who go down as one of the greatest players ever. And awesome team. But then I got Ben and Chaim, who, when I first started with them, I think they were around 24th in the world. And at this stage, they were 8th in the world and doing awesome, and two really good friends as well. It was a really tough decision to make that call. But I was like, you probably never going to get an opportunity like this again to coach someone. Already won a gold medal. Go down. It's like, I mean, kind of, I guess, equivalent of maybe Michael Jordan, asking you to coach.
Right.
Yeah. Which, had to say yes. But I remember when I talked to them, I was like, I mean, if I do this, like, we're aiming for the next Olympics, right?
Yeah, right.
They're like, yeah. I mean, if our bodies are good, we're going for it. I don't think any three of us thought it was going to be another 5 years until that point. In COVID.
Dude, totally. I'm curious. Like, I actually been thinking about it myself. Like, and you can just tell us to whatever extent you want. Obviously, you guys have your own team dynamics, but like, what's kind of the mindset going into this Olympics now that it's Phil's 4th and Nick's 2nd? What's kind of obviously the goal is gold, but I have a feeling in my head, at least, that like the approach has changed, for a guy like Phil each Olympics, and this one, I don't know, might be a little different. But like, what's kind of the general approach in terms of, at least for what you can tell us?
Yeah. 100%, like, eyes are on the gold medal. That's all we want. And I think we can definitely do it if we put everything together. It's going to be super hard, and it's almost like the qualification process. You need some luck to go your way as well.
Right.
But I think, like, we've talked a lot about how do we want to feel after this Olympics, like, whatever happens. So having that kind of good feeling at the end of, like, okay, we did everything we could. We enjoyed the moment of putting everything out there. So it doesn't, to try and, I guess, make sure it's not like a bitter kind of finish.
Right.
And obviously Phil's mindset is this is it. This is the last one, and Nick, I'm not totally sure. I think he still wants to play more. Phil will probably play some AVPs, but I doubt if he's going to go back on the world tour. So I think that's like a big mindset of kind of like the last dance, I guess. This is it.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn, you should have a film crew following you.
Probably should. It would be pretty interesting. We'd have to be pretty careful.
Yeah, right.
Phil and Nick love media too, so they'd love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When you're hired to coach Phil Dalhausser, like you said, it's like Michael Jordan calling you to coach him. No offense, but obviously you're not a 6'10" blocker.
Yeah.
How do you approach helping Phil make improvements and Nick make improvements on whatever? Because how do you tell one of the best players who's ever lived how to improve his game? Yeah.
Well, I this is the same thing I told them, and I've told every team I've kind of worked with, is like, hey, I'm going to tell you what I think and how I see it, but I want to hear what you think and how you see it. And then as a group, we kind of worked out what is best. And I always try to look at whoever I coach, private lessons, whatever, like what's the best style for that person on how to play? Because obviously, I can't, I'm not going to teach Phil how to play how I used to play, you know, and I'm not going to teach someone that's like me to play like Phil. That's just, you know, crazy. So, yeah. And I mean, now obviously they wouldn't be where they are if they weren't super smart players already. So, I mean, it's been an awesome process, like going through those conversations with both of them and kind of going into how they see it and then how I see it, and finding like ways to do it. And I feel like every year we've kind of been working on little things and changing stuff with their game. Like I think with Phil's blocking, he's got so much better at kind of controlling his body and letting his hands do a lot of work out to the side. Where I think like traditionally before he was a lot more up and down. And yeah, I think like, yeah, heaps of little things with like creating space or that on two and passing styles and some swinging stuff with Nick. It's been pretty cool to like see how they see it and always kind of finding new ways. Like it's cool to know that they want to get better. They always want to get better and they always want to see the new ways to get better. They're not just like, well, I'm pretty good, I'm just going to stay where I am. Yeah. And I think that's what makes great players. Like you can't be great if you're not constantly looking at that kind of stuff.
Yeah, as a competitor, I feel like, and I see this stuff, I hear it, you know, because I'm good friends with you guys too. But as a competitor, I hear like the little stuff, and like, damn, like Phil's like doing all this meditating and like he really wants it, and he's humbling himself and like continuing to learn. And I hear that, I'm like, damn it, like I know that leads to success. Like, yeah. This guy still wants it. They still have the energy to do it. And I admire it for sure and respect those guys a lot. But I also, as a competitor, like, damn, I got my hands full because these guys, like, they're not easing up at all. Yeah. Same as Jake too. Yeah. And that's obviously the reason you guys are in the position you're in today. Yeah.
How did you guys handle, because like you said, when you got hired, and was it 2016 or 2017 that Nick kind of gave you a call? And
yeah, beginning of 2017.
Okay. So you're brought on and you're like, we're going for the Olympics. No one expected it to be a 5-year process. And
yeah,
the time wasn't on Phil and Nick's side in this case, because they're a little bit older, but obviously both of them still very healthy. And Nick looks like he's like 32 still.
Yeah.
How did you guys handle the pandemic? I mean, and as a coach, you know, how do you keep them mentally and physically dialed in? Because I mean, that's tough with so much uncertainty around that situation.
Yeah. It was interesting. I mean, there was we tried to take the positives out of it. Like, I think the big positives for us is like right before like the tournaments got shut down, we had a couple of like niggly injuries. So it was kind of nice that we knew we could like get that time to recover, get them kind of sorted. I think like for both of them, I mean, they've been playing on the tour for so long, like constantly that kind of travel, being away from your family is super hard. So I think it was like really nice for both of them to spend that time at home with their family, almost have that summer at home with their family, which was pretty awesome for them. But then it was obviously a super mental battle because yeah, I think we had only played 11 tournaments at that stage, and you needed at least 12.
Yeah.
And so we were like, are we even going to get the opportunity to get this 12th one in? Are they going to change the rules for the qualifying? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's kind of like, when are we going to hear this? And so we had to talk a lot about being like patient and just, hey, let's get our bodies right. Take this time. I mean, all this stuff is out of our control. There's nothing we can do about it. So try not to dwell on it, and then when an opportunity comes, let's just make sure we're ready. And that's kind of the way we kind of like approached it. Yeah.
You came out hot and you played really well in Doha. Didn't make it easy on yourselves in Doha.
No. Yeah, that 3 games in one day, that was brutal.
Yeah. In that sand and heat too, not easy.
Yeah.
Was it hot? Was it hot in Doha?
Yeah, it was hot and windy, and deep sand.
So really similar to Cancun.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Was the sand pretty deep in Cancun?
It wasn't that deep.
Yeah. But yeah, pretty similar.
It was medium. Okay.
It was probably less windy than Cancun though. I feel like Cancun was insane, huh?
It was insane. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot you weren't there.
Yeah. That was tough. That was because with FSU, had to be helping them through their spring. And I was kind of told that if I went, I was going to have to do like a 10 to 14 day quarantine. And then I find out, I see Jose down there in Mexico, and then boom, he's back coaching. I'm like, how did you pull that off? He's like, the UCLA was all good with it. I'm like, damn.
That's funny. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Do you have any plans beyond this Olympics? Because you mentioned you're with FSU, you moved your whole family out to Florida.
Yeah.
Phil, you said was probably retiring from the world tour. Is there any like set plans moving forward?
No set plans. Kind of looking at some things, some options on what we can do. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, what's crazy? You've been close to representing 4 different countries at the Olympics. Almost had it. New Zealand as a player, Vanuatu as a coach, Canada as a coach, US as a coach. Where are you going next?
Yeah, who else wants to make it? No.
Derek
we'll
Walton's kind of following in your footsteps. He just qualified for the Olympics with Morocco. They won their Continental Cup. Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So he's the new Jason Lochhead.
Yeah, exactly.
But what are the next three-ish weeks before the Olympics? What are they looking for you guys? You got the training camp with the Polish boys and Ahmed and Sharif.
Yeah, so we got that one more week here in Orlando, and then we were going to play Gstaad, kind of tossed and turned about that a bunch, and then decided we're not going to play it just for that extra travel on the guy's body. Better to just keep them as sharp as possible. And then we're going to do a training camp in Tallahassee. And then, because since me and Nick have actually been in Orlando this whole time, so it'll be nice for us to get a week back home. So Phil's going to come out, and then we'll do 1 week in LA, and then hit the road to Tokyo.
Oh, nice. When is that week in LA?
So we come out, I think the guys are leaving on the 9th of July, and I'm leaving on the 10th.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll be just getting back from Stad on the 10th, I think.
Yeah. Nice.
So I might see you a little bit before you go.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the arrival process for Tokyo? I'm sure it's probably pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be so different than Rio. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what they've kind of told us is we're going to be obviously landing and getting tested and all that. And they said prepare for 4-hour wait times to kind of go through that whole process before they kind of process you through it and then get you to the village. Yeah. So yeah, it's going to be gnarly. And then once you're there, you're pretty much locked in your room. I think there's like a couple of buildings you're assigned to go to. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to be different.
Has there been have you guys had discussions? I know I'm pretty sure you guys do work with like sports psychologists too, like in terms of just approaching it mentally, knowing that this Olympics is so much different than what all of you guys are used to.
Yeah. No, we haven't actually. I know the guys talk to a sports psychologist. I'm not sure if they've come up with a plan for that.
So got it. So you're not in that meeting.
Yeah, I'm not in the meeting. It's probably a good idea to come up with something. I mean, the good thing is both those guys are kind of, pretty chill and don't mind hanging out by themselves or in a room too much.
Yeah.
Where I think like someone else, I remember on the yeah, like Kuk, who I used to play with, he was very much that kind of needed to go do stuff, where I could chill in the hotel room most of the day pretty easy. So I think they'll be able to handle it a little bit better. But I know that Nick's was saying he's a little gutted not to be able to go check out Tokyo and do that kind of stuff. Right. So it'll be pretty cool. Yeah.
It's gonna be good.
We appreciate you taking so much time to chat.
Yeah.
You're busy being a Olympic coach, taking the daughter out to Disney. So we appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, Jay. It's a pleasure. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, congrats on qualifying. And if we don't see you when you guys come out to LA, then good luck in Tokyo.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, go win the gold for all of us.
Yeah, we'll do.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Later.
cheers, boys.
Right.
Later. Shoots.